That night, Jack packed. He didn't have much stuff in his studio. In fact, all of his belongings fit into 2 bags. As he zipped up the last one, a dark thought passed through his mind. He could dodge his parole. After all, he was already packed. His place was only 5 blocks from Union Station. From there, he could go anywhere that he wanted to. Start fresh. A new life. A new identity. He thought of how he could rustle up a fake ID, working in some gas station in the middle of a desert. Jack was getting stuck on what his new name would be as he laid back on the bed, and this complicated fantasy turned into a dream. And the next thing he knew, he awoke to violent honking outside his window, coming from his impatient cabbie. Oh well, he thought. Nothing says I can't run when I get there. Over the next 3.5 hours of the drive, the landscape changed from skyscrapers to shorter buildings to residential boroughs, and then finally to fields and trees. Jack couldn't remember the last time he had been more than a few miles outside the city. It unnerved him. Looking out the window was now making him sick. All there was to watch was thick trees whizzing by. After what seemed like forever, they finally came to a clearing. A sign read, Channing Falls, population 1, and the rest of the numbers had been spray-painted over. The town didn't look like it ran for more than 5 blocks in each direction. The cab went a few blocks and then stopped in front of a run-down-looking American-style diner. Here you are, said the cabbie. Get out! You hurry! Jack shot the cabbie a dirty look and at his own pace stepped out of the cab with his bags. The cab sped off, and Jack stood there for a moment on the street, giving the town a critical once-over glance. His heart sank as the cab disappeared off into the trees, and he let out a heavy sigh. Just then, with a loud thump, Jack felt a hard whack on his head, and his vision went bright white for a split second. His first instinct told him that he was being mugged, so he raised his arms and spun around, looking for an assailant. All he saw was a little boy in a baseball jersey, holding a mitt, looking at Jack, almost expressionless. Jack looked down and saw the baseball at his feet that had hit him in the head. He picked it up and cocked his arm back, threatening to hit the kid back. The kid immediately ran away around the corner, and Jack was left holding the ball. Still full of rage, Jack swung around and threw the ball on the roof of the tallest building he could see. As if it could get any worse, thought Jack. I already hate this godforsaken place. Jack stepped into the diner. It was busier than he imagined it would be. Most of the booths were full up, and a cute older waitress looked to be the only server. A few locals sat on stools at the counter, and behind the counter stood a slightly rotund man wearing an apron. Something strange caught Jack's eye. In the corner, he seemed to see 3 hooded people, all in white robes, as if they were monks of some sort. Before he could process what he saw, he heard a voice from behind the counter. Can I help you? I'm looking for a Mr. Francis, Jack said. It's Paul, he said, stretching out a hand. You must be Jack. Lion said you'd be coming. Jack shook Paul's hand. Well, let's get acquainted, said Paul. Have a seat in the booth.
So what did you do? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that. Tell you the truth, I don't really care. You're here now.
Yeah. So what's the story with this place?
Channing Falls? Channing Falls is an alright place. People are nice. Down to earth. You'll adjust. Can you cook?
A little.
You'll mostly be prepping in the kitchen for Sujin.
Sujin?
Sujin does the real cooking. He's that enormous Japanese fella you see behind the window. You'll be prepping for him and bussing when you can. Cleaning, sweeping, mopping, that sort of thing. Think you can handle that?
Yes, sir.
Don't call me sir. Again, it's just Paul. No need for all those formalities. I'm not going to lord the threat of sending you back to prison over you, alright? The way I see it, either you do the work and you stay, or you don't and you leave. There's no reason to make it difficult.
That's pretty understanding of you.
Well, Jack, you're not the first ex-con to roll through here. You know, the mayor takes an interest in rehabilitation. That's your new P.O.
Who is he?
He? Well, he runs things in the town. Very hands-on. Quite an extraordinary person. He's helped a lot of people. There is one thing. Some people take him a little too seriously. Put him on a bit of a pedestal. I'll be the first to admit this place is a little bit strange. And it takes some getting used to. But a lot of people around here refer to the mayor as the one.
You're joking, right?
I'm afraid I'm not.
What is that? Like some sort of second coming stuff?
It's a local thing, I think. Like a sign of respect. As I said, it takes a little getting used to.
Hey, Hey, Paul. What's the deal with...
Jack turned in his seat to look back at the robed characters, but they were gone. Never mind, said Jack. Paul gave Jack a quick tour of the diner, then off a large key ring, pulled off a key, and handed it to him. He explained that the key was to his apartment, an old hotel a block and a half away that had been converted into studios. He asked Jack if he'd like to show him the place, but Jack declined, saying that he didn't think he'd have a problem finding it, and he'd rather get some rest after his long trip. Paul told Jack to check in with the mayor, his parole officer, before 5 o'clock, and gave him directions to his office. Jack agreed that he would. "Get some rest," said Paul. "Work starts at 6 a.m. tomorrow." Jack thanked him and headed off to drop his bags at his new place.